It's no secret that the current state of video game culture is a bit rough on the edges, with there being a vast, almost void-like distance between the corporate shareholders calling the shots and the actual gamer consuming the product. What was once a passion-filled art form driven by pure imagination has slowly and methodically been corrupted by these corporate interests. No longer so much art, but more so now just a lifeless, soulless product. It seems these days the actual artistry, talent, and love put into a video game is of zero importance to its corporate interests. Revenue, or how much money a video game can make, being literally the only thing that matters. Now, with that said, I like to believe
the times they are a-changin'.
it seems like the majority of video games that are created these days are built backwards. Marketing schemes and monetization models at the forefront of development, and gameplay, or the actual video game, taking the backseat or an afterthought. And this is far from a secret or anything. Anyone can do a quick Google search and find out that the top grossing video games are often, if not solely, free-to-play titles. Developers these days just need to make a game that is only mediocrely fun. The appeal from actual gameplay can be rather minimal, just good enough to keep a steady rotation of casual gamers coming into play. A gamer rotisserie, if you will. These gamers spending little to zero money on the title. But that's okay, because these gamers just need to be there to keep said mediocre title afloat, while most, if not all, of the revenue being created by whales, or that one gamer out of several thousand who is spending hundreds, if not thousands, on silly in-game shiny trinkets, aka microtransactions. If you really think about it, a huge portion of the industry is pent up by these so-called whales, and many a title released these days being built from the ground up just to sell said shiny trinkets to said whales. The actual video game and or gameplay needing to only be mediocre at best, just good enough to house this market of microtransactions. So it is our fault. Gamers are to blame, albeit these so-called whales making up an only minute fraction of the overall gaming community. Technically, it is us gamers at fault. We are certainly to blame. Let's face it, if little Timmy and Enrico didn't just spend $90 on an in-game mount, developers would have no other choice but to focus on creating an actual good game. Even then, games these days have so many HUD elements, or just an overwhelming amount of heads-up display, there's barely any actual game left to be played. I'm old enough to remember the glorious 8-bit and 16-bit eras where video gaming was new and fresh. The vast majority of titles were just full of imagination. Developers were pushing each other. Innovation was rampant. Every year, something was brand new and exciting. Not cool new shiny trinkets or skins to put on your characters, but brand new and fresh features and game mechanics. Video games were a way to detach from reality. Nowadays, it's as if every new title that comes out tries to be more and more like reality. But how did it come to this? How did we get here, where the past several decades, innovation is almost completely stagnant? And sure, capitalism or corporate interests are to blame. These guys in suit and ties who have never played a video game in their life are the ones making the last call, the end product being mostly shaped by one of these schmucks. How did this new and exciting art form come corporatized and nearly zapped of all of its life? I can think back to almost everything I've ever loved, where this depressing life cycle has taken its course on it, from skateboarding to even punk or alternative music. It's as if all of the awesome things in this world are first created, nurtured, and then brought up from a strictly organic, passionate, and grassroots level until it is eventually hijacked by corporate interest and catapulted into the mainstream, wrung out like a dirty dish rag, bled for every possible penny, and then discarded. Well, if you think about it, when it comes to actual gameplay, there has been little to zero innovation in the past several decades. Yeah, I said it. I mean, think about it. Hop into my little gaming history time machine and let me take you back. All the way back to the beginning. There was Pong. Well, technically there were a couple before Pong, but still, we're gonna start with Pong. This is where the video game craze, as they called it, started. Soon after, you had Space Invaders, which revolutionized the arcade, and you had Asteroids, but eventually came Pac-Man. This little dude, this mascot, is kind of what changed everything. Now there was real powerful branding behind a video game. In the early days, most games had a kind of top-down perspective, all games having a 2D plane of existence. But up until this point, there was no real major innovation, until came Mario, and his brother Luigi, of course. But going from Pac-Man to Mario was huge. Not only did you have the powerful mascot branding, but the Mario games provided a sense of adventure. Mario changed everything, and Nintendo was on top of the world. From this point, video games were here to stay. And for decades, there wasn't a whole lot of innovation past what Mario provided. There were a many a game like Mario. Some were faster, some more expansive, but in the end, they were all just games like Mario, 2D side-scrollers. Until came a game that changed everything, and that was Quake, the first true 3D interactive experience within a video game. And sure, there was Doom and Wolfenstein before that. Those were technically 2D, using pseudo tricks to appear 3D. Alright, let's stay on topic. When Quake came out, video games changed forever. We have gone from a flat, two-dimensional perspective into a new, huge world of 3D. In fact, pretty much any game out today, if you dig deep enough down into its base code, you will find deep within its code, Quake code. It is literally the pillar of everything we know in gaming today. So let's refresh real quick. First, we had the jump from games like Pong, Pac-Man, into Super Mario Brothers. Then decades and decades pass, and we have the first real huge innovation, being Quake 1, the first fully interactive 3D first-person shooter. Now this is what's crazy. Just years later, or literally like a year and some change, a group of passionate gamers, what we now know as modders, created a game called Team Fortress. And this, my friends, is the very first ever class-based, or what we now call hero shooter. Yeah, that's right. Before the turn of the century, probably the most biggest genre today was created. To this day, the class-based or hero shooter is one of the, if not biggest, genre in all of gaming, and it was created almost 30 years ago. And I would even argue the original Team Fortress is better than a lot of these games even today. But that's a subject for another video. So to bring this all into perspective, we had that initial jump, pun intended, from Pac-Man to Mario. Decades passed, and we had the first real huge innovation with the release of Quake. Literally just a year later, we had the next big innovation, the release of Team Fortress, a mod, mind you. All of this happening before the year 2000. And my point being, there has been no real innovation since. You had the OG Team Fortress, then Team Fortress Classic, a mod for Half-Life, and later Team Fortress 2, a mod for Half-Life 2. And now you look at these games today, games like Overwatch, Paladins, even Battlefield is a class-based FPS. And now we have even the most epic, blatantly based, as the kids say, studio of all time, Valve, quietly developing their own class-based or hero shooter with Deadlock. And with little to no marketing, this game is already putting up huge numbers with a freaking alpha build. So with Valve, of all companies, is just falling right into line, taking no real gamble, and just making what works. Where can we look for true innovation in gaming? Who is going to dare to be bold and create this next leap in gaming? Well, one thing's for certain, it isn't gonna come from the corporate space. I wouldn't bet on EA or Ubisoft or Activision doing anything special anytime soon. Sure, gaming has kind of been in a rough patch, or rather stagnant in the innovation department for the past couple decades. However, with that said, the future is actually extremely bright, and that, my friends, is thanks to indie studios. That's right, not only independently funded developers, the actual gamer or modders is the only reason we can be hopeful for any real innovation in gaming going forward. And if the next real big innovation is already being think-tanked, for lack of a better word, longtime viewers of the channel know how I feel, but the milsim genre, I think at least withholds the features or mechanics that will be a big part in the next big thing in gaming. And if you think about it, the military simulator genre is really just an evolution of that very first class-based shooter, Team Fortress. I think if you step back and look at gaming as a whole, the next big innovative thing isn't necessarily going to come from the gameplay itself, but more so directly the gamer himself or herself, where communication, players working together towards a common goal, being a huge part of the great games we will see in the near future. You watch, there's going to be a title that isn't necessarily militant or a war game, but is awfully similar to Arma. It will break into the mainstream and more than likely be the biggest thing in gaming we've ever seen. Oh wait, never mind. That's Roblox. Alright, I want to thank each of you for watching. Pound the smash, smash the pound. As always, a special shout out to my channel members. Consider supporting the channel by joining the Mil-Simp minions. If you play Squad 44, or any Mil-Sim for that matter, click this video here on the left. Even veterans of the genre could learn a thing or two. I will see you boys in the next one. Y'all be good to each other.